My name is Preston Hayes. I'm 58 years old, and on May 12th, 2024, I died on the marble floor of my office lobby. For 30 years, I lived in a glass tower on the 42nd floor. I could see the whole city from my desk. I was an investment banker. I built a company from nothing into a machine that made money while I slept. I had the house, the cars, the portfolio, everything the world tells you is a blessing. I thought I was blessed. I really did. I was a king in a kingdom I had built with my own two hands. I had a wife, Julia, and two kids, Ben and Chloe, who were grown and had lives of their own. I loved them. I know I did. But my real family was the stock ticker. My real language was profit and loss. I provided for my family. I gave them a world of comfort and opportunity. I thought that was the job of a father, to build walls of money so high that no harm could ever get in. But I was so busy building the walls, I never realized I had walled myself in too. Prayer for me was something you did when you were out of options. I was never out of options. I was the man who made the options. That Tuesday started like any other. A 5 a.m. wake-up call. 1,000 emails before the sun was fully up. I remember I was on the phone with our London office, walking through the lobby to get to my private elevator. I was barking orders about some merger. I felt a pinch in my chest. I thought it was indigestion from the coffee I drank instead of eating breakfast. I told my assistant to hold my calls. The pinch became a hot spike. It felt like someone had driven a red-hot piece of rebar straight through my sternum. I dropped my phone. It clattered on the polished marble. I remember seeing the reflection of the ceiling lights warping on its dark screen. I tried to take a step to call for help, but no sound came out. My legs gave way, and the last thing I saw was the terrified face of the young woman at the front desk before everything went silent. It wasn't blackness, it was just nothing. No pain, no fear. The crushing weight on my chest was gone. The noise of the city, the ringing phones, the constant hum of anxiety that had been my background music for decades, it all just stopped. Then I realized I was floating. I was up near the high ceiling of the lobby. Looking down, I could see my body, my expensive suit, my Italian shoes. It looked like a doll someone had dropped. A security guard was running towards it. The young woman at the desk was on the phone, her hand shaking. I could see it all, but I couldn't feel it. There was no panic. It was like watching a movie. I thought, that's a shame. He had a good run. I was completely detached from the man on the floor. The sounds of the lobby faded, muffled, like I was sinking underwater. The sharp, bright colours of the real world softened into a gentle, uniform grey. I wasn't in the lobby anymore. I was just somewhere else. A quiet, in-between place. There was no tunnel, no bright light at the end of it. There was just stillness. And me. For the first time in my life, there was nothing to do, no deal to close, no call to make, no problem to solve. I was just there. And I waited. I don't know what I was waiting for, but I knew I was waiting for something. Then it started. A hum. It wasn't a sound that you hear with your ears. It was a vibration. It started deep inside the stillness and grew, not in volume, but in presence. It was the feeling of a cello string vibrating right in the center of your soul. It was a frequency of pure peace. As the hum grew, the grey nothingness around me began to change. It didn't get brighter, it got warmer. The space felt like it was being filled with something alive, something that was breathing calm into everything. I turned, and that's when I felt him. He wasn't a figure of a man standing there. It's hard to explain. Imagine a column of pure warmth that had the shape of a person, but it was made of life itself. The light that came from it wasn't blinding, it was nourishing. It was the kind of light you feel on your face on the first real day of spring, the kind that sinks into your bones and tells you that winter is finally over. I wasn't afraid, I just felt known. He didn't speak to me with a voice. The thoughts just appeared in my mind, fully formed, clearer than any words I'd ever heard. The first thought was simply my name, Preston. When that thought bloomed in my mind, it wasn't just my name, it was every version of me. The little boy who was scared of the dark, the teenager who fumbled on his first date, the young man terrified of failure, the father who missed his son's championship baseball game because of a business trip. It was all of me, every mistake, every hidden shame, every secret pride. And the feeling that came with it wasn't judgment, it was welcome. Then he looked at me. I say looked, but there were no eyes. It was an act of focused attention. And as this being of pure love focused on me, something incredible happened. I felt a lifetime of weight begin to lift off of me. It was a physical sensation. I felt the burden of my company, the stress of the markets, the constant gnawing fear of losing it all. I felt it all just dissolving. One by one, these invisible weights that I had carried for so long that I didn't even know they were there, they were being unclasped and falling away into nothing. I had spent my entire life accumulating things, and in his presence, I was being unburdened from it all. The love I felt was in the liberation. He wasn't just telling me I was loved, he was setting me free. And I started to weep. Not tears of sadness, but tears of absolute soul-shaking relief. The king was finally free of his kingdom. The being of light let me float in that freedom for a moment. Then another thought gently formed in my mind. Let me show you what you were carrying. The scene around us changed. I was standing in my office, my beautiful office on the 42nd floor, with its view of the whole world. I saw myself sitting at my desk, phone pressed to my ear, brow furrowed in concentration. And then I saw them. Chains. They were made of beautiful, shining gold. They looked like trophies. One golden chain connected my wrist to the telephone. Another, thicker one, wrapped around my waist and was anchored to my leather chair. More chains connected me to the computer screen, to the framed stock certificates on the wall, to the bank statements on my desk. They were glorious, heavy, and they had pinned me to that spot. I thought they were my achievements, but I saw now that they were my anchors. They held me down. They kept me from standing up, from walking out the door, from being anywhere else. I could feel the phantom weight of them again, the cold, heavy drag of my own success. I felt the anxiety they produced, the constant, desperate need to polish them, to add more links. The thought from the light was gentle, not an accusation, but a question. Was this freedom, Preston? Tears streamed down my face. No, I whispered, though I had no mouth. No, it wasn't. The scene dissolved again. Now I was somewhere else. A tiny, simple room. The walls were cracked plaster. A single bare bulb hung from the ceiling. An old woman with a face like a road map of a hard life was sitting at a small wooden table. In front of her was a single bowl of thin-looking soup and a small piece of bread. Her earthly possessions probably wouldn't have filled a single drawer in my massive walk-in closet. But as she bowed her head to pray, the room changed. A soft, warm light began to glow from within her. It wasn't my imagination. It was real. She wasn't praying for a winning lottery ticket or a new house. Her prayer was so simple, I could hear it in my soul. "Thank you," she whispered, "thank you for this food." And as she spoke those simple words of gratitude, I saw it. A cord of pure white light shot straight from her heart, up through the ceiling and into the heavens. It was vibrant, alive, and powerful. There were no chains on her, none at all. She was sitting in a poor room, but she was the freest person I had ever seen. She had nothing, so she was attached to nothing but God. And that connection was more real and more valuable than my entire net worth. The scene shifted one last time. I was in a child's bedroom in a rundown part of a city. The paint was peeling, and the only light came from a street lamp outside the window. A man, a father, was sitting on the edge of his son's bed. The little boy was fast asleep. The father was slumped over, his head in his hands, and I could feel his despair. He had lost his job that day. He had no savings. He had no idea how he was going to feed his child next week. He was at the end of his rope. He was poor in every sense of the word. He wasn't praying loud, formal words. He was just talking, a desperate, silent conversation. "God, I don't know what to do. I have nothing left. I have no power here. I have no plan. I trust you. That's all I have. Just, please watch over my son." The moment he thought the words, "I have nothing left," The atmosphere in the room crackled with power. Standing behind that father so large he had to stoop to fit in the room was an angel, a being of immense strength and light. He placed a hand on the father's shoulder and another over the sleeping boy. The father's total emptiness, his admission that he was utterly powerless, had created a space so wide open that heaven itself could walk right in. His weakness was a doorway for God's strength. And then I understood. The thought from the light bloomed in my mind, the final piece of the puzzle falling into place. The things you owned you, Preston. Your strength was your prison. They are blessed not because they are poor, but because they have nothing to trust in but me. Their emptiness makes room for all of me. Your life was too full of other things to have any room left for me. It wasn't a punishment. It was a law of the universe. You can't fill a cup that's already full. My cup had been overflowing with stocks and bonds and pride and self-reliance. There was no room for God. These people in their poverty had empty cups, and God filled them. He filled them to overflowing with His presence, His peace, His strength. That was the blessing. I looked at the being of light, and all I felt was love. I was home. I was free. The thought of going back to my body, to the golden chains, was unbearable. Please, I communicated, my entire being pleading with him. Don't make me go back. I don't want the weight again. I just want to stay here with you. The warmth of his presence intensified, like a loving embrace. The weight was a choice, he replied, the thought so tender it brought a fresh wave of tears. You don't have to pick it up again. Go back and show them what true freedom looks like. Carry my love now. It is light. He wasn't commanding me. He was inviting me. He was giving me a mission, not to build another company, but to show people how to unchain themselves. I felt a gentle pull. I didn't want to go. The idea of leaving that peace was the greatest pain I had ever felt. I love you, I thought, desperately trying to hold on. The last thought he gave me was a promise, and I love you. This is not the end. Go. The pull became a rush. The warm, humming stillness was ripped away, replaced by a feeling of falling through ice, a violent, shocking cold. Then, a jolt, a massive electric jolt that slammed me back into myself. The first thing I felt was fire, a searing, agonizing fire in my chest. The first thing I heard was a man's voice shouting, "We got a pulse! We've got a pulse! Stand back!" My eyes flew open. The lights were blinding, white, sterile, painful. Machines were beeping all around me, a chaotic symphony of noise after the perfect silence I had just left. I was on a gurney. Paramedics were all around me. I could feel the cold tile of my lobby floor through my shirt. I saw my wife, Julia, in the hospital later. Her face was pale, her eyes red and swollen. I tried to speak, but my throat was raw from the intubation tube. All I could do was cry. I wasn't crying because of the pain in my chest. I was crying because I had just left heaven. I was grieving the loss of his presence. My doctor came in the next day, a chart in his hand and a look of complete disbelief on his face. "Mr. Hayes," he said, clearing his throat, "I don't have any medical way to explain this. Your heart attack was what we call the widowmaker. Massive. You were clinically dead in the lobby for 23 minutes. No heartbeat, no oxygen to the brain. By all accounts, you either shouldn't be alive or you should have severe, irreversible brain damage. But your scans are perfect. It's a miracle." I just nodded. I knew it wasn't a medical miracle. It was a mercy. I sold my company. I gave away most of my money. My wife and I live in a small house now. I spend my days working at a soup kitchen, the very place I probably would have driven by without a second glance before. Before I died, my portfolio told me I was rich. My skyscraper told me I was powerful. My success told me I was blessed. But I was the poorest man in the world. I was trapped in a beautiful cage I had built for myself. Jesus showed me that true blessing isn't what you have in your bank account. It's not about how full your hands are. It's about how empty they are. It's about how much room you have in your heart for Him to come in and fill it. I was sent back to tell you one thing. Don't be afraid of the empty places in your life. Don't be afraid of your weakness or your need. Don't be afraid of having nothing to hold on to. Because it's in those empty spaces that we find everything. It's when we let go of our own strength that we get to experience His. He's waiting there, in the quiet, in the stillness. He's waiting to unburden you. He's waiting to make you truly, truly rich. He is real, and He is waiting.